Chaos is once again tearing through Japan as yokai corruption spread across the land, twisting history, myth, and ambition into something far more dangerous. A new Nioh adventure is right around the corner, but what do we actually know about the game so far? What's up guys, my name is Fervor, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm breaking down my ultimate preview of Team Ninja's upcoming action RPG, Nioh 3. Now, if you're watching this video, there's a very high chance you're already a fan of Team Ninja and the Nioh series. Nioh is a franchise that began back in 2017, captivating players with its fluid action combat and brutal world, and while it's definitely more niche compared to other major action titles, it has built an extremely strong and dedicated fanbase, one that appreciates its fluid, high-skill action combat and its focus on battling supernatural enemies. But for those of you who are new to the series or just need a refresher, here's a brief overview of what to expect from Nioh 3. Nioh 3 is the next major evolution of Team Ninja's action RPG series, building directly on the foundation established by Nioh and Nioh 2 while expanding its scope in several meaningful ways. The game once again blends real Japanese history with dark supernatural mythology, placing players in a war-torn Japan where yokai are no longer isolated threats, but a consistent presence shaping the conflict itself. Combat remains fast, lethal, and deeply technical, but this time is framed around greater player freedom, larger interconnected environments, and a more flexible approach to how encounters are tackled. Rather than reinventing the series, Nioh 3 appears to focus on refinement and expansion, taking the system players already understand and pushing them further in scale, traversal, and player expression. One of the biggest shifts in Nioh 3 is how Team Ninja is approaching exploration. In previous entries, progression was built entirely around instance missions. You selected a location, completed a clearly defined objective, and then exited back to a hub. That structure is being fundamentally reworked here. Nioh 3 moves away from that rigid, menu-driven flow and instead places players inside a much more persistent world that's designed to be explored organically rather than consumed mission by mission. Rather than queuing into isolated locations, players exist within a border, interconnected environments that function more like a living open world. This doesn't mean the game abandons structure altogether, but it does mean more exploration is no longer secondary to combat encounters. You'll be moving through large regions filled with points of interest, branching paths, hidden routes, and optional objectives that naturally pull you off the critical path. Stealth takedowns, alternate approaches, and environmental awareness plays a much bigger role in how you navigate and engage in the world, bringing Nioh closer to a modern action RPG without losing its own individual identity. With that said, Team Ninja hasn't completely thrown out instance content. There are still moments where the game tightens its focus, delivering curated encounters and structured challenges where it makes sense. The key difference is that these elements now exist within a larger exploratory framework instead of defining the entire experience. The result is a world that feels less segmented and more cohesive, where progression is driven as much by discovery as it is by combat mastery. Naturally, this shift in scope has raised concerns among longtime fans of the series. Moving towards a more open design always risks diluting what made the original game special, but from what's been shown so far, Team Ninja has been deliberate in preserving the classic Nioh feel. Combat remains punishing, enemies placement is still intentional, and the game continues to reward patience, positioning, and mechanical skill. The difference is now those systems are layered into the world that feels more alive, more flexible, and far less constrained than anything the series has attempted before. When it comes to Nioh, combat has always been the foundation everything else is built on, and Nioh 3 is no exception. Precision, timing, and mechanical mastery are still the core of the experience, but Team Ninja is making some meaningful adjustments to how the combat systems are structured. The biggest change comes from how samurai and ninja styles are handled, shifting from simple build paths into a distinct combat identities that you actively swap between in real time. In Nioh 3, samurai and ninja are no longer just passive stat directions, they function as separate combat modes with their own weapon restrictions and strengths. Certain weapons are locked to specific styles, meaning what you can equip and use depends on entirely what form you're currently in. Heavier weapons like axes are designed around the samurai style and can't be equipped on the ninja loadout, while faster, more technical weapons like the hatchets are tied specifically to the ninja. This creates a more clear identity for each playstyle and forces more intentional decision making during combat. The separation opens the door to more deliberate combat flow because samurai and ninja function as independent entities. Each can be built to excel in different scenarios. A samurai setup might be optimized for one-on-one duels against larger, hard-hitting enemies, relying on power, stance control, and punishment windows, while a ninja build can focus on speed, mobility, and pressure, making it better suited for dealing with faster enemies or chaotic encounters. The system also extends beyond primary weapons. Each style has its own secondary equipment, which adds another layer of flexibility. For example, a samurai loadout might favor firearms, where a ninja loadout leans a little bit more towards a bow. Because these are separate inventories, you effectively carry more utility and more resources overall without inflating a single build. It's a subtle change, but one that has real impact on how encounters play out over time. All of this feeds into combat feeling more fluid and reactive, with key mechanics like burst counters now tied to style swapping. Combat encourages consistent movement between forms rather than locking players into one role. The result is a system that still rewards discipline Nioh is known for, but also adds momentum and adaptability on top of it. Nioh 3 isn't abandoning its roots, it's layering flexibility onto an already demanding combat foundation. Beyond combat and exploration, Nioh 3 introduces a layered set of tools and progression systems that significantly expand how players approach encounters. Some of these systems are entirely new, while others return in a more structured intentional form. Together, they reinforce Nioh 3's emphasis on momentum, adaptability, and players' expression rather than raw stat stacking. One of the most notable additions is the Proficiency Gauge. This meter builds over time as you successfully land attacks and avoid damage through dodging and deflecting. Visually represented as a filling orb on the interface, the gauge rewards clean, disciplined play rather than reckless aggression. Once again, it allows you to unleash a powerful proficiency attack tied directly to your heavy attack input, creating a clear risk-reward loop that incentivizes precision and consistency during extended fight. On top of this, both Samurai and Ninja style has access to their own distinct spirit forms and yokai abilities, further separating the two playstyles. Based on preview footage, players will eventually be able to unlock multiple slots for yokai abilities, up to 4, giving each form its own customizable ability loadout. This opens up a wide range of technical options, allowing players to tailor their samurai and ninja kit differently depending on how they want each style to function in combat. Another familiar system returning to Nioh 3 is Soul Cores, though they are a little bit more structured. Defeated yokai drop soul cores that can be slotted into designated yin and yang slots, with the effect of each core varying depending on the placement. These bonuses range from enhanced stealth capabilities to offensive utility, including projectile-based support abilities that can influence fights without replacing core weapon combat. The slot-based design adds an extra layer of decision-making, encouraging players to think about synergy rather than simply equipping the highest value option. Taken together, these systems make it clear that Nioh 3 is doubling down on players' choice. Weapon stances, yokai abilities, spirit forms, and soul cores are all stacking into dense toolkits that allow for highly specialized builds without locking players into a single solution. While we're not diving into every possible combination here, the sheer variety of yokai shown so far strongly suggests that Nioh 3 will offer one of the deepest system-driven sandboxes the series has ever seen. Next, let's talk about boss encounters, because at the end of the day, this is still Nioh and bosses are where the game really shows its teeth. These fights are still designed to be hard, punishing mistakes and force you to actually understand your build instead of brute forcing your way through. What's different this time around is how much more flexibility you have in those encounters. With the ability to swap between samurai and ninja, bosses don't feel like you're locked into a single plan anymore. If a boss is slower and hits like a truck, samurai makes more sense. If it's fast, aggressive, and doesn't give you much breathing room, ninja suddenly becomes a better option. Being able to adjust mid-fight changes how the encounter flows and make them feel less rigid without making them easier. From what we've seen, bosses are still very much the skill check of the experience. You still need to learn patterns, manage stamina, and play clean. The difference is now you get more ways to respond when something isn't working, instead of just backing out and respecing. It feels like Team Ninja is keeping that classic Nioh pressure while giving players a bit more room to adapt. And with so many tools at your disposal, between style swapping, yokai abilities, spirit forms, and soul cores, boss fights feels less like a hard stop and more like a problem you're meant to solve. And there you have it, that's our ultimate preview of Nioh 3. Team Ninja is clearly looking to expand on what made the series so compelling in the first place, not by abandoning its core system, but modernizing how they're presented and how they interact with the world. From exploring to combat to deeper player tools, Nioh 3 feels positioned as a meaningful step forward rather than a safe repeat. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to support the channel by dropping a like and subscribing. We already have a full lineup of content ready to go day one, including a complete review of Nioh 3, and there's a lot I want to talk about once players finally get their hands on the game. If this is a title you're even remotely interested in, you're going to want to be subscribed so you don't miss out on what's coming next. If you're looking for a Discord community filled with like-minded players, be sure to check out the link in the description. We run community events, giveaways, and discussions around games like this on a regular basis. And as always, my name is Fervor. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next Nioh 3 video very soon.